Okay, hi. My name is Gustavsson, and I'm working for a small open source company, FOSDEM. We develop open source PKI enterprise products. ejbca is a certificate authority, and Sign Server is a server-side digital signature server stuff. And I'm going to talk a little bit about the whole kind of chain when using smart cards, because there is skip that. When you have a smart card, it's not only that, well, you can have a smart card and you can use it on your PC, but there's actually, when you want to use it in a bigger environment for kind of serious business like electronic ID, etc., there's a whole life cycle around it that you have to manage. And this is called certificate lifecycle management, so this slide, but it might as well say a smart card lifecycle management. Because for each smart card or certificate, you first issue it to someone, and then you can use it. And then when it will expire, then you have to renew it. If you lose it, then you have to revoke it, or you can revoke it, so someone else can't steal it and use it. And in the end, it expires and you throw it away and you just can't use it anymore. So those are different states these certificates and smart cards go through during the time. And of course, you can manage this life cycle in various ways. One, you can do it manually in a small environment. Works fine for a small scale. Of course, it's more labor intensive and takes some more time, but you can easily issue hundreds of electronic IDs with that. And but for larger enterprises or countries, etc., you want some more automated lifecycle management in order to automate these processes, etc. And then there are different standard protocols that can be used to back with this automated lifecycle management. So this is just something showing that there's actually a very large amount of different protocols and different things that have to interact in a PKI environment, where you can issue different types of certificate, different types of smart cards for different purposes. You have smart card management, you have LDAP directories, VPN routers, web browsers, etc. So it's actually, well, it easily becomes quite complex and not very easy to manage at all. So if we concentrate on the smart card system, as I said, it's not only that you have a smart card and a smart card reader on your desktop, and in order for it to work, well, you actually have a whole chain. You have a certificate authority in the back end who issues certificates for your PKI cards, smart cards. You have a certificate that has to be transferred some way, to the smart card, and that's called enrollment process. And actually, you can use smart card on both ends of this chain. In the left end here, we have a hardware security module for a certificate authority. This can either be, a 25,000 euro hardware box from SafeNet or UTMake or something, or you can also use a smart card with OpenSC PPCS11 for this as well. And on the right side, of course, you have all the thousands or millions of smart cards for the users. So in the back end, the hardware security module, which can be a smart card, protects the certificate authority's private keys, so it can't be copied by someone who breaks into the server. And this requires also have a kind of a lifecycle management for this particular token. And you have to have some sort of key ceremony to generate it in a controlled way, because it's usually required that this can be audited, at least if it's like in a company or a country scale. And then on the other right-hand side, you have the issuance of or provisioning of the users with their usable tokens, which they can actually use to do some online taxing or banking or online voting or whatever. And that involves to personalize this smart card, which comes blank, which you have received from Michelle. But you have to personalize it so it actually contains your identity, your certificate. And you can do this very fine with raw, just OpenSC actually. But then this is then a demonstration of a manual process which contains some steps that you have to do. You can get your, this is actually for if you have a Siemens card OS card, you can issue these commands. You first initialize the card, you format the card, you create the PKCS15 file structure on the card, you can init the card with a old PKCS11 slot. You can generate, then you have to generate a key pair in order to have your private and public keys. And after this, now you have actually a smart card with keys on it. But in order to be able to use it as an ID, you also need a certificate from the certificate authority. And then you have to use OpenSSL, for example, which works with PKCS11, and you generate a certificate request on the file. And you take this file and you can copy and paste it into a web page on the certificate authority, and then you can get a certificate from the certificate authority. And then finally you can use PKCS15 init to store the certificate on the smart card. Now, finally, you have the smart card that you can use in Firefox, for instance, to do SSL TLS authentication. So you can easily script this, for a small business or a group like this, so you can issue smart cards. That wouldn't be any problem. And there are also companies who kind of wrap this to make their own smart card personalization systems to fit with maybe GUIs in Python or something like that. So this is the labor-intensive way. In an enterprise or large-scale environment, this is usually not kind of acceptable because they are so cheap, so they want to do everything without manual labor. So then they want to bring in CMS. It of course means a lot of things. In this context, the CMS is the card management system, not the content management system, not the cryptographic message syntax, but it's a card management system. And so those are used by large companies to actually enroll, issue, and manage this life cycle that I mentioned in the beginning. And it also has a lot of integration points. The CMS can integrate with LDAP and legacy systems to when you provision a user with their smart card, it's also distributed in the organization to all the systems who are the relying third parties and actually want to receive this ID in the end. And there are, if you have a system like this, you usually have several databases. The certificate authority has a database with certificates to manage the certificate, to be able to revoke the certificate and issue revocation lists, etc. And the card management system also has a database with ID numbers of the cards, etc. So you can keep track of which person got which exact smart card, etc. And there, of course, I mentioned that CMS, you could easily use OpenSC to create your card management system. It wouldn't be rocket science, at least. There are plenty of companies who make card management systems. This is just a few examples which we have been working with from some time or another. Aventa, a Finnish company, AET is Dutch, Techmaker is Swedish, Gemalto, Overture are big ones. Hard code management framework here is actually an open source card management system, which is the only open source one. Unfortunately, it relies on a proprietary or commercial PKCS11 library, so it doesn't use OpenSC, at least yet. So this is actually, if you talk about this whole chain of using smart cards, this is one area where there's a gap of open source software, at least to my knowledge, and this is the card management area. And that was actually it. I was very fast. So I'm open for questions. And of course challenge you to develop a card management system based on OpenSC.
I have a question. What is how big is the gap between PrimeKey's current products and the CMS that you would like?
What PrimeKey's products are? PrimeKey's product is this part, so we completely fool this part. PrimeKey doesn't do anything in this part, so that's.
Right. What do you think is the reason why it is so?
That we don't do anything.
No, that you don't do anything, but that first of all it's kind of complicated and that there is no open source-ish solution.
Yeah.
What's the reason for this?
I think that one reason, which is partly the reason why we don't do this, is once you start doing this, you easily kind of transition here from where we are on the server side. It's very comfortable and nice. You deal with IT staff which are very competent, etc. When you transition here, you start getting into the real user and Windows desktops, which you don't want to mess with, of course.
Feeling with buggy cards.
Exactly, and there are lots of cards which are work very differently. There are no good standards for cards, which Martin knows everything.
And the mailer wares are very bad.
Yes.
So do you know about the DocTag system?
I think I've heard something.
That was previously Netscape certificate system, now Red Hat certificate system, and it has been open source as DocTag. I think it should be similar to what's happening here.
Yeah, they said they have definitely a certificate authority in the DocTag. That's the old Netscape certificate authority. But I don't think they're also not in this area.
Yes, they are.
They are?
Yeah.
Okay.
But the problem with DocTag is that they're kind of stuck in time, and it's also very limited. The car support is, I think, 1 or 2 Java cars, very specific. And as said, the card issuing is very often protected with cryptographic keys, NDAs, and very binding contracts. So it's not really an open platform. They kind of fulfill their needs for their corporate requirements.
You said earlier that it was possible to build an HSM on OpenSC on a smart card. But it's only to protect the root key.
Yeah.
When you mean HSM, is that an embedded device with a crypto disk, or is this a relational database based on PKCS 11 doing complete crypto?
Yeah, that's the hardware crypto device based on PKCS 11 who performs the cryptographic operations. In this case,
okay, so
the
it's
HSM would just be a card reader and a smart card.
Oh yeah.
But it's right that the smart card area, which you have to deal with here, is it has all the different vendors with no really open standards. Yes, the Java card is an open standard, but it's very low level, so that's why it's quite complex. Yeah?
So right now, like things on the wire are quite well standardized with SSL and things like that, and issuing and so on. So when you have a large organization, whatever else, you're rolling out chip cards, you're going to roll them out together with the readers and things like that. So a certain amount of proprietary stuff is kind of like almost acceptable there, because if you roll out for thousands of people, that's so expensive that it has to work, and you've got to have someone to blame to work out, because you've got so many people involved in the organization that you would never ever get through otherwise. Now, at that CMS part, that's of course a little bit different, right? Because there's sort of like you have room for a standard and a massive benefit if you could like have one CMS system work with a wide range of cards and things like that. So if you look at OpenSC today, sort of like it covers a pretty wide range, effectively. Could you make it more, or is there a way of sort of like slicing and dicing the problem a little bit different by sort of like lobbing off the whole browser side of things, say that, well, let's only focus on the issuing side, or somehow find a way of making the issuing protocol open standard supported by open source, but let sort of like the tail end live proprietary in the browser, things like that. So basically sort of like as an interim step to get to this point. Is there something pragmatic you can do there, or do you have to solve the whole problem in one pass?
Well, I think you can be quite pragmatic and kind of mix and match a little bit, definitely.
Well, where would you draw the line? Where would you sort of like, what problem do you solve? Like, what problem with the CMS do you really have to solve open source, open standard to get the maximum benefit? And what stuff can you leave a little proprietary, knowing that smart cards and the rollout is really expensive?
Well, currently, I would say where you usually are the most proprietary is on Windows clients, while the stuff in the middle can be more or less handled quite easily with open source things. At least that's my current opinion.
Okay. I think time for cigarettes again.
Thank you.
Thank you.